Good morning, good afternoon, and a very good evening to you, for good and wonderful people of YouTube. Hope all today, hope you're grand, and also in the world, I am people of YouTube, because this is, I love doing this kind of thing. So, today people of YouTube, we are going after classic blues tones on the Boss Katana 100 here, Mark 1. I've already done a video on this on Mr. CR120 here, but I actually personally believe that the tones are more easily achieved with a katana. Like everything, really. The katana just makes life easy. Anyway, enough gushing over katana, Dave. We all know you love it. You've said it enough times. Shut up and get on with the video, okay? Okay, Dave. Okay, so, yeah, the intro song you heard, that was my attempt at trying to capture the Eric Clapton blues breaker tone. Oh, and also, by the way, YouTube, you'll notice there is no mic on the amp today. I'm using the line out. So what you're hearing is just a DI signal. It's basically, you know, you can't fail to find a sweet spot, basically. So, and I feel I got really close. The hard thing about replicating the blues breaker tone is replicating the technology it was recorded on. So, it was recorded to reel, which means it'll already be a lot darker than it actually sounds. So I'll tell you about the EQ in a minute, but I've kind of darkened the amp off a little bit to get that kind of sound. So I'll talk about that in to replicate that, but I'll talk about the EQ in a sec. So that is one thing we have to bear in mind when we kind of trying to replicate the Eric Clapton blues breaker tone, is that initially it would have been a lot brighter than it appeared. You know, because it's recorded to reel, and they also added a slapback echo to it later on, and I've tried to simulate that with the delay unit inside the delay inside the Katana. That would darken it down as well. A lot of this stuff, and we also don't know if they EQ'd it slightly as well. Who knows what they actually did to it? Also, there is the way that they mic'd up Eric's amp, and also the way Eric ran his amp. Eric ran his Bluesbreaker combo, which wasn't called a Bluesbreaker combo at the time, with bass on full whack, you know, so it was very, very big, and I've done that on the Katana. The bass is flat out. Anyway, and also they mic'd it about a good distance away. You know, they mic'd it, I can't remember exactly how far Eric said he was away from it. I actually did a video, an in-depth video on this tone using the Katana 50, but I want to use the 100 to see if it translated, and it kind of does. It's really, really cool. I had to tweak the settings slightly, but it's still cool. So we've got to think about that. So Eric's tone in the room would be a lot more shrill. It would be a lot more ear-piercing, but it would still have that classic Marshall tone. And I feel that really close. You know, I might have slightly overdone it on the delay, the slapback delay with the level of it, but I really like the way it felt, so I just went with it. I'm not one of those people kind of like, I've got to get it perfect, because you can't. It's impossible to get the exact Beano tone. it's impossible to get most of the other tones I'm going to get in today exactly. You know, you're not them, you're not in that room, it's not that amp, but you can approximate. And I do feel the approximation was very close. I was going for the what's it called again? One sec, Virtue. I've got it here. I can never. I'm useless with song titles, even my own, believe it or not. All Your Love. I was going for the All Your Love guitar tone with this slapback echo and bridge pickup on a Les Paul through like a cranked amp. And I feel it got really, really close, and it feels great. What I'm going to do in a sec, actually, I'm just going to play through it again and show you like the neck pickup. I'm also going to show you without the slapback echo. I'm going to put a little bit of reverb on it just to give it a bit of space, otherwise it's really dry. And it just sounds a little bit sterile, which is what it would kind of sound like in the room. So in that case, I won't put reverb on it, people of YouTube. I'll just leave it as is, just dry. No delay, just leave it as is. But I feel it got really close. People of YouTube, what's your thoughts? I would like to know in the comment section below. But for me, personally, the Katana is the ultimate. You know, it's, as you know. And so when I was doing the blues, kind of classic blues tones with the CR120, I thought, I'm going to have to do this with a Katana at some point. So, anyway, so what I'm going to do now, Poochie, is I'm going to tell you the EQ, and then I'm going to play through it a little bit more, and then we'll move on to the next person we're going to try and replicate their tone with today. So, let's go through the EQ of what we did. So, I was on the brown mode, which is one of my favourite modes on the Katana. I was on a brown mode, voicing, or whatever it's called. I had the gain all the way off. So basically as low gain as it can possibly go on the brown mode. Volume was all the way up on 10. Bass was all the way up on 10. I had mids about 11 o'clock. So basically there as you're looking at it. No treble, no presence. They were turned all the way off to kind of simulate that kind of like that degradation you get with tape. So it's a little bit darker. I still don't feel it was dark enough, personally. But I'm really happy with my approximation of it. And it feels amazing to play. And it makes you play in that really staccato-y way. I mean, I can't play like Eric Clapton like that. It's not really something I've ever looked into or my kind of style of playing. I much prefer Peter Green. Sorry, Eric. But I do. I much prefer Peter Green's playing to Eric's. But it does make you play in that way. Because you don't have a lot of gain. You've got no sustain whatsoever, really. It doesn't really sustain. And it's just fun. It's just a great sound. And again, I feel like I got really, really close. I also had it on. I also had a green delay on as well. Basically, all I did is just tap tempoed it in, just so it's just basically a slapback. So it's like da-da. And I'll show you that before I turn it off anyway. So anyway, without further ado, people, let's make some more noise with the Eric Clapton blues breakery kind of tone. That I feel like it's a really close approximation. Is it an exact approximation? No, that's impossible. You can't do that. If you put Eric Clapton in the same studio with the same amp and the same Les Paul, whatever that is, because that's disappeared, doesn't it? The Beano Les Paul. It still wouldn't sound like that. And also you can hear on the Blues Breakers album, his guitar tone does change. Sometimes it's slightly darker, sometimes it's more mid-rangey, sometimes it's more trebly. You know, it varies from song to song, you know, because, you know, they weren't recording this all on the same day. The amp would fluctuate, being a valve amp tone-wise. You know, Eric messing around with the dials on the Les Paul. You know, there's so many variables there to try and replicate. So I've tried to kind of like approximate everything, including, like I say, the fact it was recorded to reel tape, which again degrades as soon as you record. You know, it's a darker, warmer tone than it would actually be in the room. It'd be quite harsh actually in the room. Still sound great, but quite harsh. So I've tried to replicate that with the EQ. Again, no treble, no presence. That's sort of done there. I'm also using my East Coast Les Paul Poochie, the gold top for this one, because it just does that thing. It's just like a classic Les Paul, that guitar, and I love it to bits. Anyway, that's enough talking. Let's do some more in the style of Eric playing, because I'm not very good at it. But let's try and do a bit more of that thing, and I'll try and show you the tones a bit more. And I say I'll leave the delay on for the first part, and then I'll turn it off, let you hear it totally dry. So let's go. Okay, YouTube, that is literally one of my favourite sounds I've ever got out of the Katana. I love that one to bit. I could play on that all day. Literally, even with no reverb, it was like inspiring to play because it feels like a broken up amp. It feels like a cranked up amp. It's got the same kind of response. You can actually get more I didn't want to really do dynamics because Eric didn't really do dynamics on the Beano album. He did, but kind of. Not as much as like people like Peter Green did later on. But I just wanted to be that kind of aggressive Eric, if you will, where it's just kind of like, you know, you're digging in and just kind of trying to get everything you can out of the amp. And it just responds, man. It just gives you what you want, and I love it to bits. Anyway, so let's just recap on the EQ. So we're on the brown mode of the amp, and the gain is turned all the way down, volume is all the way up, bass is all the way up, mids are at 11 o'clock, no treble, no presence. And like I say, it's on the green delay, and basically all I did is just like tap it as fast as I could to get a slap back delay. And I feel that was really, really close. It's again, you're never going to be 100% pure tune. When you're kind of going after somebody else's tone, you always have to start with the idea in your head of like, this is never going to be that. It's never going to be whoever you're going after. It's never going to be their sound. Because there's too many variables, you know, the biggest one being you're not them. You know, but you can get close, you can approximate, and I feel that's really a good approximation. I love that sound. I've written it down because I just want to remember it because I love it so much. Okay, so anyway, that's the Eric Clapton Beano tone PeopleTube with the Boss Katana 100 Mark 1. So I'm pretty sure these EQ settings will work on the Mark II as well. From what I've played with the Mark II, they're the same amp. You know, it's just got a little bit different kind of layout and things are a little bit different here and there. The one thing I really wish the Mark 1 had is the same spring reverb that's in the Mark II, because it kind of simulates that drip sound, and I absolutely adore that. Anyway, so yeah, that's our Eric Clapton blues tone. Let's move on now to the second artist. The second artist we're going to do today is Mr. Stevie Ray Vaughan. So I'm going to reset the amp up. I don't know how I'm going to set this yet. I'm flying by the seat of my pants here, but I will write it down when I've come up with an approximation. And yeah, the next thing you'll hear is that, and then we'll talk about it. And yeah, let's go. YouTube. So there you go. That's my attempt at Stevie Ray Vaughan's tone. And again, I feel that's really close. You know, again, is it exact? No, of course it's not. It's not going to be. But it's got the right kind of feel and sound. And in the room, it sounds amazing. Loud, that wouldn't be particularly nice. It'd be quite harsh like Stevie was. You know, when you hear Stevie's kind of like that Fendery tone that Stevie had, like really loud as Stevie would play, it gets in your head. I remember a quote from Eric Clapton saying when he went to see Stevie, like, you know, you do eventually get used to it. He said, but when Stevie initially started playing, his tone was so in your face. It almost hurt, you know, because it was so loud and it was so kind of ear piercing. It was quite harsh, and again, that would be what this tone would be like loud. I mean, obviously, yeah, with the joys and beautifulness of solid state and digital stuff, we can have that tone, but really quiet, which is nice. So you don't blow your eardrums out. But I feel that's really close. You know, that kind of like, you know, position 4, out of phase, net pickup, kind of bluesy kind of tone. I feel it's really close. So yeah, let me tell you about the EQ. I'm really happy with that sound. I'm really, really happy. I'll tell you what as well, POTT. It's so much easier to get these sounds on this amp than it is any of these sounds I'm going after on this amp, more than any other amp I own. You know, whether it would be like Marshall MG, CR120, whatever it is, the Katana is so easy to find these sounds. It takes little to no time to dial them in. You know, the EQ responds in such a way that it just makes it easy, and it makes it fun as well, because you get there really quick and then you can just play, which is great fun. Anyway, so let me talk about EQ. So we're on the brown mode again. So gain this time we're at 1 3/4 basically, which basically means it's between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. It's like somewhere in there. Trying to find that exact Stevie sweet spot is really difficult because it would change. Some gigs, Stevie's amps would be a little bit more distorted, overdriven, should I say, than others. And then some gigs, he'd be a lot cleaner than others. I went for the Elmer Combo gig as a reference for these tones. That was the sound I kind of wanted. So that's the sound I'm trying to replicate, the live sound. Not necessarily the studio sound per se. So I'm after his kind of like live Elmer Combo sound, and I was using things like Lenny and Texas Flood and stuff like that, and so excited to kind of get these tones and to kind of like go, well, what's missing here and there? So that's what I've got there. So yeah, brown mode, gain about, you know, 8:45, 9 o'clock, give or take. I mean, it could be down to 8 depending on your guitar. I have the pickups on my guitar really low. Stevie always had his kind of pickups quite low, so, you know, in ridiculously high action, so bear that in mind. So yeah, so that's it. Volume was on 10, so I had the volume on 10, the channel volume, not the overall master. Bass I had at 5, so basically straight up at 12 o'clock. Mids and treble were at 9 o'clock, so that way. No presence at all, and I had the reverb set to the red reverb, and it was at 10 o'clock. So it just gives it a bit of ambience, a little bit of that Fender kind of thing. It doesn't quite sound like a Fender Spring Reverb, of course it doesn't. It's not Spring Reverb, and this doesn't have that emulation in there, but it does the job. You know what I mean? Like, you know, if you're in a room full of people, I would fail to think they would be like, oh my god, he's not using a real Spring Reverb, I must leave. It's not going to happen. If you're enjoying what you're playing, all's good. But I feel it's really close. It feels really close as well. When you're playing it, it responds in much the same way as a Fender amp does when it's wound up like that. You know, having been a lucky sod and played through a lot of these old Fender amps, that is how it feels to play through it, but with nice volume. Not, I'm going to rip your face off volume, because that's normally what Fenders do. Once you get Fenders cranked, they sound phenomenal. These old Fender amps sound absolutely amazing. My favourite one was a Fender Twin. We had an old hat, but they want to kill you. They have a vendetta against you for being turned up so loud. They want to get you, and it's very harsh and it's very in your face, and it does sting to play. You have to wear ear protection, otherwise it's just not fun. Whereas with the Katana, you can get that same kind of tonality, but without killing yourself, which is great. So yeah. Anyway, that's Stevie Ray Vaughan tone, so I'm really, really happy with that. So I'm going to move on now. This might be... I don't know what to do here, POTT, because I'm torn. I want to get 2 more, but I can't really play in the style that this next guy played in, because I'm not good enough to play like any of these guys anyway, especially not people like Stevie and the next guy. But the next one I'm going to go after is Mr. Roy Buchanan, another Texas blues guitarist. So I'm going to break out the Telecaster for this, because Roy is, I think, criminally overlooked as literally one of the most amazing blues players there ever was. He was just a stunning guitarist. And his tone was amazing. It was a lot, I would say it was a lot harsher than Stevie's. A little bit more gain, maybe. Because Roy didn't use any pedals. Stevie used to use a Tube Screamer, later on used a fuzz and an Octavia. But Roy never used any pedals, so it was just straight into the amp, and basically you would dime it. And also Roy used a lot more reverb as well than Stevie, so I get to play around with reverb a bit more. So, but this one's going to be difficult here too, because I'm not very good at playing in his style, because I've always just enjoyed listening to him. But it is a tone I want to go after. And I'm going to try and replicate the Austin City Limits tone that he had. So that's going to be my reference for this next tone. So the next one you're going to hear is Mr. Roy Buchanan. Going to get the Telecaster out and attempt to play like him, which is not going to be an easy thing. Anyway, but hopefully the tone will be somewhere in there. Okay, so next thing you hear, Mr. Roy Buchanan. See you in a sec. YouTube, there you go. That's the Roy Buchanan-esque kind of sound. It's really hard for me to do that one because I'm not really, I can't really play like him, so I can't really kind of like get it right. So that's my best approximation. In all fairness, I find it harder to play like Roy Buchanan than I do Stevie Ray Vaughan because, I don't know, there's just something in Roy's playing that was just even more crazy and mental than Stevie to me. I don't know, it just seems to be I don't know, maybe it's just me, I don't know. But he's very hard, he's a very hard guitarist to copy. Weirdly enough, though, it's pretty much the exact same EQ as Stevie Ray Vaughan, bar more reverb and a little bit more gain. Literally, all I did is knock the gain up to 9 o'clock. Instead of it just being just below 9 o'clock, it was just up at 9 o'clock with a Telecaster, and it worked. To me, I feel it's a close approximation. It would sound better if I could actually play like him, because it kind of like, you know, because that's another thing as well, is like if you can't kind of get that style, which I'm not very good at Roy's style. Roy was really, he's difficult. He's really difficult to play because the way he plays is very frantic. You know, there's no let up with Roy Buchanan. Stevie, you would get gaps. You know, every now and again you'd get gaps where he would, like, you know, take a breath or this and that. Roy didn't really do that. Roy just kind of went hell for leather from the get-go and just blasted it, and it was amazing. But, and again, with a Telecaster, you know, man's a monster. No pedals either, just straight into a Fender Twin most of the time. But I feel it's close. It's got that kind of sting. It's got that Telecaster sting. But again, it's just a difference of guitar. You know, it's the same EQ. Although... No, I did, yeah. It's the same EQ. All I did is say... So, basically, all I did is put the gain... we're on the brown mode still. I put the gain at 9 o'clock. Channel volume was all the way up. Bass was at 12 o'clock. Mids and treble were at 9 o'clock. No presence. Reverb was all the way up at 1 o'clock. So there's a lot of reverb. I'll show you really quick. But it's kind of got that sting. And I needed more gain to try and get those pinch harmonics that Rory got, but it was really difficult, really difficult. Like that, it's really hard. And he would do that kind of like finger kind of muting thing. Which is really, really difficult. That kind of thing. But yeah, other than that, it's basically the Stevie Ray Vaughan EQ, which is rather interesting, people, to say the least. But makes sense, you know, they're both plugged into Fender amplifiers with Fender guitars. The tonality difference is going to come from the player, obviously, and also the guitar. You know, Roy played a Tele, Stevie played a Strat. Roy mainly stuck on the bridge and neck pickups, never didn't really go in between because from what I've seen, his old Telecasters, they had the original wiring. So all the way back was the bridge pickup, in the middle was the neck pickup, and all the way forward, which he never seemed to use, was the dark circuit, you know, a dead circuit. So, especially in the Austin City Limits one, the Telecaster he's got there definitely seems to be that way. Anyway, that's my attempt at Roy Buchanan's tone. It's very close to Stevie's, but different in the fact it's the Telecaster, and it's got a bit of a different sting, especially when... And Roy's like vibrato and fierceness is just unreal, absolutely unreal. Anyway, gonna move on to the last guitarist of the day, YouTube, Mr. Peter Green. Can't do one of these without doing Mr. Peter Green. So I'm gonna get a Les Paul, and we're gonna go through the live. We're gonna go through the Boston Tea Party kind of tone for this one because I'm in love with that sound. Peter's tone is damn near impossible though. There's just something about Peter's tone that's not to put a pun on it, but supernatural. It really is. It's just, you know, you can approximate people like Roy Buchanan, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, all these guys, you can approximate them. Peter seems to be impossible. I don't know what it is. I've spent years and years and years studying that man's tone to try and get a close approximation of Peter's tone. And it's just difficult, if not impossible. It's really difficult. But I'm going to do my best, people YouTube. So anyway, see you in a sec for Peter Green. YouTube, there you go. So that's the fourth one. That's the last one I'm going to do today because I am knackered now and I'm starving as well. I need a sandwich. I'm hungry. Anyway, Peter Green, that was the hardest one, and I still don't think I came anywhere near. There's something about Peter's tone that's, in all fairness, sometimes you'd be mistaken for thinking he was playing a Fender. Not a Gibson Les Paul. That Les Paul has such a distinctive tone that I think it's impossible. Without that guitar, it's impossible. And I hate to say that it's just in the guitar, because obviously Peter was a massive factor of this tone as well. But I do think that guitar had a certain quality to it. It's almost, again, I'm going to use the word supernatural, not to make a pun. But it really is. There's something about, when that guitar was in Peter's hands, it made a unique sound that no one's replicated. Not Gary Moore when he had it either. No one replicated the sound that Peter had with his Les Paul. And it didn't matter what Peter was plugged into, whether it be his Orange amps or Fender amps. Peter sounded the same. It's weird. But his tone is just, my God, it's mind-blowing. My friend Ian once said that it's illegal for a man to have such a gorgeous tone, and I agree. It's just insane. I feel I got kind of close-ish, but it's still about 60%. I don't know, man. It's really hard. That one's boggled my mind. That one's actually made me kind of go, like Peter always does. Trying to play like him as well. It's just like, oh my God. And I was getting sucked back into Roy Buchanan and Stevie Ray Vaughan, which you probably noticed. I was getting pulled back into them, instead of kind of sticking with Peter, because I should have done Peter with Eric. It would have worked better. But it doesn't matter. It's fine. But yeah, Peter Green's tone, jeez, monkeys. It's tough. It's really tough, if not impossible. I mean, that's as close as I feel I could get today with my ears being tired after doing the other two. But other three, sorry. But people tube, let me know what your thoughts are. But again, I just don't, I feel I got close with Eric, Stevie and Roy, but Peter, I feel like I was a million miles away still. People too, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Anyway, I really, really enjoyed this vid. The Katana, man. Boss Katanas. I love my Oranges. I love my Marshalls. I love my Laney. I love my, my other amps that I've got. But this thing. Words fail me. They really do. There is something. It's all there. Simple as that. Katanas. There's a reason I always recommend the Katana to everyone, and that is it. It is an amp of a million voices, including your own, and it's just outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. Anyway, POTT. Hope you enjoyed this vid on, like I say, getting some classic blues tones out of the Boss Katana. I will be doing some more of these videos, actually. I think I might actually continue this series actually with the Katana instead of using the CR, because it's just easier. The CR120 has got a load of different voices. It's very, very cool. But the Katana does them a bit more convincingly, I feel, personally. But let me know what your thoughts are on POTT. I want to do some as well with the Marshall MG at some point. That'd be cool. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video, POTT. If you like the videos I do here, please consider becoming a patron at Patreon. Links to that down there. It's what's keeping this channel going at this point in time. Other than that, there's links to my music as well down there. Other than that, thank you so much indeed for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And yeah, I'll see you again for another one very soon. Have a great morning, afternoon, good evening, and goodbye now. Thanks so much indeed for watching.